Hello, everybody. Hello, masters of your own destiny. What's going on? Welcome back to my basement. I'm Francisco Suarez, your host. And yes, this is from Suarez Basement, a podcast in audio and in video that allow you to have access to those experts working behind some of your favorite TV shows and films, Broadway show, plays, artists, musicians, you name it. We have it here in the basement. And today we have Molly Rogers. She is the costume designer behind some of the most iconic fashion movies such Devil Wears Prada, Sex and the City, not only the original TV show, but the movies. Now, of course, she's working in Just Like That, Ugly Betty. So talking about having an expert in the field of costume design. Before we start our conversation with Molly, I want to thank WCNY, PBS in Central New York, and Central New York Art for the partnership. It's thanks to these partnerships that we can come to you every other week. So thank you for the trust. Thank you, the audience. Remember to visit us at fsbasement.com, where you can find our entire library in audio and in video, really cool educational tools, fsbasement.com, and everywhere in social media. Just follow us, become part of our family, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, you name it, we are everywhere. Let's start this new episode from Suarez Basement with Molly Rogers, costume design, right away. Here we go. Molly, I want to welcome you to my basement. This is well, you have no idea how happy and honored we have that you took the time to be with us.
Well, thank you. I will always go into someone's basement.
Yeah, if this basement could talk. But listen, that's the beauty of technology, right? I'm in the basement of my house, and I have the chance to talk to amazing people around the world that are experts in the field. So that's fantastic.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
You're not even aware that you're in a basement.
Exactly.
You're really around the world.
We are all around the world. We are all connected. That's the whole point. Molly, to start in a basic conversation here, remember our podcast is very educational. We have students who are going to be watching or listening to this podcast. Of course, general audience. You are, of course, an amazing costume designer. You have been working in costume design for quite a while. Of course, we're going to talk about the iconic. There's no way that I can meet with you and not talk about Devil Wears Prada and, of course, Sex and the City and all the amazing job you have done. If you could define in your own words, in a very simple sentence, what is a costume designer in your own experience? What do you think would be?
I would say the definition of a costume designer is someone that helps the writer who wrote it and the director who's getting the images onto, film, translate and interpret a vision. And that vision is collaborative, but it also has a lot to do with what I bring, my taste level or my eye brings to the project, which is why you get hired for certain things and you don't get hired for others.
Like, you mean that's a great, well, first, it's a great definition. What do you mean? And I think I understand where you're coming from with this, but now that you put it in the table, what do you mean when you say, well, you create kind of your own style? What is it that you hire for one thing, but not for the other?
I don't think you would hire me as a producer if you were looking for something that's not heightened a little bit. I don't really do normal. There's always, worked with Pat Field for many, many years, and there was always some little twist that she would do. Sometimes a big twist, like Harry in a tutu. But I think I have a certain eye that skews a little from the norm, and I don't think I would be interested in doing a detective show unless it was true detective and it had some weirdness to it. You know what I mean? I could never, I would be bored doing CSI or something normal, uniforms, whatever.
And Molly, I have a question because, of course, you work in movies that are fashion icons. I mean, this is no, that's where I'm so happy to have you. I mean, and again, thank you for taking the time because I know how busy you all behind the scenes work so hard. So taking even 25 minutes to talk to me, I appreciate it very much. However, some people would say to you, well, is that really custom design, or are you just, you're a style person? How do you define that? Because again, I'm just trying to figure out how some people would say, well, do you really don't design the costume? You're just using close to a stylist.
I consider a stylist to be someone that just shops.
Okay.
And puts together outfits on a certain taste level for the red carpet or for a magazine or for someone's personal life without a script.
Mm-hmm.
And I have many, many things that I have to think about as a costume designer. For example, if there's 4 women at a table having cocktails, I definitely have the art direction and the colors in mind. You don't have to do that as just a shopper. You can just put people in anything, and as long as they look nice. But I like to work on shows where the characters are written so well that each character, you could never swap clothes.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone. Everybody has their own distinct lane and their own distinct look. And I really enjoy finding that with actors.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think you bring me to my next point, and you explained this so well, because how important in your experience is the relationship between actors and you as a costume designer, and how do you help to develop those
Well,
characters?
the script certainly helps the actor and the costume designer, and meetings with the director so you get his also layered viewpoint. And I I only bring things into the fitting room that I like. I would never hand an actor some shirt that I didn't think was nice.
Mm-hmm.
I don't bring things in that I can't personally stand behind and say, you would look good in this. Or I love this dress. I'm not sure you can wear it. I'm not sure it will work on you, but let's try it and find out.
Mm-hmm.
Very, it's more collaborative than people really realize in the fitting room.
Mm. Well, it's like all the work that we do behind the scenes. It's always that's the beauty of television, right? It's not a one person job. It's a job of many people.
Right.
Yeah, and of course, I want to pick your brain about creativity and creative process. I love creative process because I think that's where everything's come from, right?
Yeah.
so
And,
so
and you can get inspiration from everywhere. It's
everywhere.
everywhere. Like, especially just a city block in New York, or a
Mm-hmm.
city block in any city, or a city block in any small town. If you are a people watcher, I can get inspired by so many different things and people. And I always do tons and tons of mood boards up on my wall. And when I see things and I know what I would do if I ever got that hat and what I would put it, I just influenced. I love the creative process and looking for things to put together to complete the puzzle.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit about your creative process regarding to, let's say you get a script from Sex and the City, or you get a script for any of the movies or TV shows that you're working on it. How is that process? You read the script once, twice, you start making notes. How that work?
I like to read it quickly once
Uh-huh.
and get my first impression, and then I like to read it very slowly and make tons and tons of notes. And I think that what has really helped me in visualizing people in clothes is traveling. I think that has really informed my creative process.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The more you see of the world, the more you can apply it.
Mm-hmm.
But again, New York City is a very major influence, just literally on the street, what you see, which
Yeah.
is what you don't have when you're in LA and you're always in your car. You
Mm.
so inspired in New York just from, you know,
Well, you would say them that New York City is a public runway, right? Is a let's say you can have access to these amazing people dressed in amazing clothes just in the street.
totally. Absolutely. Even a blue collar worker who has faded out and distressed clothing on, that can be
Mm-hmm.
inspiring.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That is fascinating. But yeah, you're right. I mean, I lived in New York City for many years before I start teaching now here in upstate New York. But I could sit in any Central Park or in Bryant Park and sit there and have a coffee and really see amazing stuff there.
You could see the world.
Yeah, beautiful stuff. So you are working, of course, in the sequel of Sex and the City, mean the TV show, right? That have a lot of success. And I would say that close in this show, especially in Sex and the City, is more or less mm, another character in itself, right? I mean, how do you could define these four women that that are friends, and how do you decide what Karen will work or what other person will work? Can you define, let's say, the profile of these characters?
Carrie in in our show, and just like that, is the most adventurous in her dressing and is the most eclectic, I would say. As everybody knows, she likes to mix vintage and modern and high street and low. And as most people know that are fans of the original show and this show, Kristen plays Charlotte, the Upper East Side woman. And so she's a little more, I would say, preppy or girlish in her dress. So she has her own lane. And Miranda, who's a character who was a lawyer, who is now doing where does she work? At a Human Rights Watch
That is correct.
um nonprofit is what I was trying to think of. So she is still tailored like she was as a lawyer, but a little more relaxed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's how you make the categories, by where someone lives, their hair color, their job, and then you start to form, like, silhouettes for them.
Mm. But the interesting part will be, and this is a question that I'm very interested to see what do you think. You start with Sex and the City when Sex and the City was out, in the 90s and 2000s, eh, eh, and then we come back with Just Like That years later. What have changed not only in the wardrobe that they use, but the way you do your work? I'm very interested to hear that.
It's a really interesting question. It's a very good question. The world changed so very much.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, I was just talking about how much inspiration you can get from a city street here in New York. Nowadays, you don't have to leave your home. You can go on Instagram and you can be inspired for hours until you're cross-eyed.
Mm-hmm.
You can I meet so many designers and stores on Instagram. It's unbelievable. It is such a resource for me. And I would say, so resourcing changed a great deal. Like, there are less brick and mortars for sure that I can go shopping in. I do a lot of shopping online,
Mm-hmm.
which is very convenient, but I love to go into a store and touch things and look. And I like to discover stuff as well when I'm wandering down a street. But the other thing that changed a lot was how major people loan, major houses like Valentino, and you know they have big corporations that these design houses have to answer to now, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a different world. As my industry, filmmaking, has gotten more corporate, so has fashion. And
Mm-hmm.
they have directives and quotas, and they want certain people to wear their clothes. And there's lots, and I would say it's less freer to create now than it used to be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
like there's major brands that to loan you an outfit to wear, they want you to wear the entire outfit head to toe. They don't
Mm-hmm.
want you to be in any other brand. Well, that's not very creative for me.
Mm, mm. Yeah, it is interesting. I love this conversation because you watch these movies and you realize. In fact, this past weekend we were watching Sex and the City. I think it was the first movie where they talk
First movie.
about.
Oh
Huh?
yeah, wedding.
Yeah, the wedding movie. But they talk about Carolina Herrera and Oscar de la Renta, and and I'm thinking, wow, how the business part of this work? Because after all, for these designers, this is kind of free publicity. This movie is going to be seen
Right.
for so many
It's a
people, and
commercial.
it is a commercial. And I was wondering how that whole deal work.
It's very important to them. Of course, of course, lots and lots of designers just want their clothing seen on television. Television meets grabs so many eyes. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it's unbelievable the power of television or streaming, and they just want their clothes on a show like this. But I mean, cherry on the top is getting a mention in dialogue because that is, truly a major commercial if your brand is a spoken word on the show.
Mm-hmm.
So it works out very well for them and it helps our budget if we are able to borrow clothes that we couldn't normally afford,
Mm-hmm.
aren't even in the store yet. They just came down the runway. It's very symbiotic.
Mm-hmm. I mean, of course, I know what you're telling me is that before was a little more informal in the sense that you call and say, sure, you can use an app, but now it's a whole these kind of legal restrictions and things that you need to follow in order to use very well-known brands.
Right,
But,
right.
but sorry.
On the other side of that coin, is meeting someone who's a brand new designer that no one knows about and purchasing their dress, supporting them financially, and getting their dress on the show and having them have orders for the dress and helping them prosper. That's even more rewarding because the larger brands, they don't need that kind of support.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That was my question too about upcoming designs, and I'm assuming for any upcoming design will be like an excitement and a huge deal to say, oh my god, my clothes is going to be featured in this movie or TV show, especially if there are TV shows and movies that have to do so much with fashion in general, right?
Right.
So, but I'm glad that you mentioned that. Of course, some people want to know, like, okay, well, what happened after you film? Where that clothes go? Go back to the designer. Can you keep the clothes, or any of the actors or actors can keep the clothes? How that work? Because
Well,
it's
it
thousands of clothes.
Well, it depends on what's in their contract, if they get to keep their clothing. You know, it sounds really fun to keep your clothing, but honestly, once an actor has worn it, unless they are collectors, um,
Mm-hmm,
and rabid fashion fans, they've worn it. They don't
mm-hmm,
they're not going to preserve it in their closet and wear it again. You know what I mean? So
mm-hmm,
for someone like Sarah Jessica, though, who does have a major archive, it's very important to her to have all the looks that she wore in the show because she wants to archive them. She wants to keep them. Maybe they'll be on display one day.
mm-hmm. That's
But
what I was thinking.
yeah, a lot of actors are like, "Oh, I've worn it. I could use that suit again. I'd like to take that home with me."
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's what I was thinking. That I can imagine a kind of a Sex and the City, gallery museum type of where people
Oh,
can go and
easy. Oh,
yeah,
yeah, for
yeah.
sure.
That would be awesome. Actually, that would be really, especially in New York City, right? That you can go and visit
Oh, yeah, it could go around the world.
it. Molly, you call me 0.0.0.0.5%.
Ah, ah.
Oh my goodness. Of course, Devil Wears Prada is, if not the most iconic movie that you know.
It's such a cult favorite, I would have to say.
Well,
I want to tell you something that I don't get to tell a lot of people. When I was working with Pat, Pat was the costume designer and I was the associate costume designer on The Devil Wears Prada. But I remember reading the script for the first time and it was so good. It read like a page turner.
mm-hmm,
And that doesn't happen a lot,
mm-hmm,
where it
mm-hmm,
read like a good book that you wouldn't put down.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
That was a
mm-hmm.
really good script.
Well, that is the thing, right? I mean, that's a movie that is one of those movies that not only here in my house, but I hear many people. Doesn't matter if it's on TV or it's in the stream, you go and watch it. Well, I think at this point I know the lines by
I
memory.
do too.
All of them. I can rehearse the whole thing.
I do too. I do them all the time. I say them all the time. They're such iconic, like meme kind of
Uh,
dialogues, and
yeah,
all the actors were so stellar. Everybody was so good in it, but it all started with the script. That script was great.
that is fantastic. And
And
I
it's
have.
one thing that it was based on a book,
Mm-hmm.
but they had to interpret it and adapt it to a screenplay, and it was just done really well. And then they were lucky enough to get my Rolodex, which is another thing that really helped them make that into a good movie.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. For sure. I mean, the whole thing and the cast, of course, is iconic. Right? I mean,
Oh,
so
I
yeah,
mean, I
yeah.
can't imagine anyone else as Miranda Priestley.
Yes, I agree with that. And that bring me, of course, the rumors are there is a second one coming.
I heard that. It sounded very strong and like this is really happening. They better call me. It's all I have.
Give me a second. Let me call Marilyn right now. I don't have my phone. I don't know where it is.
Oh, I'll call her.
Oh, you call her and say, listen, if it's happening, you
But
have to.
that's something to be very wary of. When you have something that's such a cult favorite,
Mhm.
if you don't make it better, you've really done a terrible disservice. Like, honestly, I can't imagine if someone would try to remake
Yes.
Citizen Kane or what are you going to do better?
I agree with you. So, and I hope, and that's the reason also why, just like that, I think it is such a lot of critics, they always going to be somebody who criticize things, right?
Yeah,
It's
but
like,
it's been very harsh, I
I,
would say.
I do think it's just, listen, I think what I love about this version is that what were you expecting? The whole point is that these characters have matured. These characters have, we cannot go back. If you want to go back to that, well, go and watch Girls in HBO or
Right,
this is not
right.
about that.
You know, that's really interesting to me because when it had been so long since everyone had seen these characters together and one character not here,
Mm-hmm.
that it was puzzling because people and fans of the show seemed to not want the girls to move forward in life. They wanted them preserved in a time capsule, which is what the original show is. So
Mm-hmm.
go watch the original because these girls have matured and they have families and they have divorces and they have deaths and it happens and it's life. But to not want them to change,
Mm-hmm.
real disservice.
It is. It's very
And I think a
interesting.
lot of a lot of that criticism is from I don't like the new show because it's not the same without Samantha, or
Mhm.
it's not the same, Carrie's different, or it's just not a realistic thing for me.
I found it very much a great show in the sense that the writers and the costume designers and the cast and they understood that life happened and also the world change, right? The world that these girls live years ago is not the same one at
It's
all.
not the same. And also, as hard as change is, a lot of people, not only people watching the show, but characters don't do well with change,
Mm,
and they struggle. And it's just, I think season one of the reboot was all about change. I mean, let's face it, it was in the first episode that Mr. Big dies.
Right.
I mean, that was a big deal for us to shoot because it was about sudden change. And how is Carrie going to get over it or navigate it? You can relate to it yourself if you've had someone
Right.
pass
Right.
away.
Definitely. And
I don't think that fans would be happy if we had come back and Carrie was at a singles bar at her age.
right.
Do you know what I mean? That would be depressing, as depressing as a funeral.
Or the critique will be why, this 45 years old woman is in a single bar. It's never because
Let's move on. There's other drinks than Cosmos.
Correct. Yes. Molly, do you normally are in set when you're working in a TV show or a movie, or you have a team that take care of, bringing the costumes and
I rarely get into a store. When I do, it's a treat and it's rare. You're really stuck in the office because you need to be wherever the camera is. I like to go and see what people look like in front of the camera. I know what I did in the fitting room, but the last chance I get to make it good is before camera rolls. So I really are stuck in the office or on location.
And how long in advance you work? Let's say when you start doing a shooting, you work with 2 weeks, 3 weeks in advance. How much time do you have to prepare?
Well, in the beginning, we started shopping in February for the characters, and we started filming in May. So we have a little time, but then it gets faster and faster and faster because you're shooting episode 2 and you're shopping episode 3 and you're fitting episode 3 and you're shooting episode 4. It goes fast, fast, fast.
Any behind the scenes stories that you want to share with us, of things that happened to you that students that are hearing can understand that mistakes can happen, and sometimes we have a booby, like we call, right? The dress got a stain or something.
Oh, well, there was a really old dress that Carrie was walking down the street with Miranda in the original show. It's called a walk and talk, where you're walking and talking in Soho. And the dress was so old that the straps rotted off of Sarah Jessica that day. They literally disintegrated. But things like that are fun. And, but I want to say to any students or anyone that would listen to this is that I just want to encourage them in their lives to travel and to be as risk-taking as possible, to really not let anything stop you from trying something. I really want to encourage that to anyone who's in school or thinking about school or whatever, whoever listens to this, to just travel, absorb the world.
Well, Molly, thank you so much for taking the time. You are a star. All the best in your upcoming projects. And thank you. Yeah, thank you for your talent and for the work that you do for us.
Thank you for having me, and I'll try to find those photos.
I will. Okay, perfect. Nice to see you. We keep in touch, okay?
Bye-bye.
Perfect.